That'll be wonderful for the people that want to hear about Aloy's adventures in the Forbidden West.
Oh, yeah. Let's get down to it.
It's a great game, and let me just tell you,
I've been sucking a lot of tiny dicks.
what I really enjoyed was the part where
just keep on slurping and sucking.
the big robot monster, where she got, after getting further in this, I don't know if I touched on this, but this
You can touch on this anytime you want to.
This game is so good. And I think that I never got the chance to really talk about how good the first game was. And I was a little bit concerned, honestly, when they announced there would be a sequel, because I feel like that first game had such a great mystery the whole time. You're wondering, what happened to the world? Why is the world the way it is? And what you are eventually presented with is something that's really interesting. It's not really told in a great sort of way, but the combat and everything you've done up to that point, you're like, yeah, I'm into this. And they have really refined a lot of those points to where you're like, all right, I'm kind of into this story as well. What Guerrilla Games have done in Forbidden West, honestly, it doesn't seem like a game where you're going to cry when Aloy gets tuberculosis and is slowly dying towards the end of the game.
Wow, okay. So we're going to write her off already? I see what you're doing there, but we're going to write her off already?
It's not the story of Aloy and her adoptive daughter where they have to fight zombies and then one of them has to make a really difficult choice towards the end of it. It's not her when she has to reclaim the blades of chaos and fight the different pantheon of gods.
It's not her, it's me.
In North mythology. God, that was hard to say.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The story in and of itself is not something that it's interesting as a sci-fi read, but again, it isn't something that you're going to want to sit down and just binge over and over again. And it's pretty simplistic in its setup, and that's that this world has been ruined by people over 1,000 years ago. Everyone that is a current human was born out of a project that...
There's a couple of people who've come out of the projects.
Yeah.
And they've done well for themselves.
They've done well for themselves, Ryan. But the problem is that there's a man named Ted Farrow from Farrow Cybernetic Solutions.
Ted always trying to keep the man down.
And Ted, you know what? He's 3 feet tall. He starred in there's 2 movies where he didn't quite look like a bear, didn't quite look like a stuffed animal, alongside Seth MacFarlane. He did a bunch of swear words and he had sex with that grocery worker on top of the produce. And Ted Farrow, basically what he did when he did that was fuck humanity out of a future and a lot of future knowledge. But I've hit a point in the story of Horizon Forbidden West where I am fully invested in what's happening.
You're dick deep.
Everything that's happened up to this point is just, if you try to discuss it, it's just pure
Sexual intercourse.
It's nonsense. It's not sexual intercourse. She's probably one of the most asexual video game characters there's probably been at this point.
You think so?
I think that from what I've read on Reddit, some people are complaining that she's not hot enough.
Oh, God.
But you know what? That wasn't really the point of this game.
Why can't she be a strong female who doesn't need to have sex with somebody?
I think that's one of the things that I enjoy was that in that first, again, not in a sexual way, but in the first game, she was very unsure of herself. A lot of the point of that was that you're learning about yourself. You're learning about the story. In this game, she's like, listen, I saved the world one time. Get out of my way. I don't have time to explain this to everybody else. And a big point of contention is that she has friends that want to help her and she has to ask for help because she needs help.
Oh, so you're saying that she's humble.
She's learning it. So like I have said, Ryan, as his eyes were glazing over about 2 weeks ago when I was explaining about Gaia, the AI that helped regenerate life on Earth and its subordinates.
Exactly. Still wondering what the fuck you're talking about there, guy.
She finds it. She finds it and restores it, and she establishes a base. And then Gaia is like, hey, I'm a black lady, and I am in charge of restoring all life on Earth. And Aloy's like, that's awesome. What do we need to do? She's like, all right, listen, I can't really do it yet because you need to capture 3 other AIs and they're in ancient underground facilities.
Like, damn, why you gotta make me work so hard for this?
She's like, listen, the first place you need to go out to Las Vegas. And she's like, what's a Vegas? She's like, I'm going to tell you. It's a place where people used to go in the desert and gamble. And they're like, hey, even in fucking caveman times, I can relate to that. Anything people have that's money, people have invented some way to gamble it away.
Can I get an amen? Please.
A highlight of that game so far, when you go out to what's left of Las Vegas, that is a really cool part.
Does it look anything like Vegas?
Not at first. Okay. It's just sand dunes, but you meet a guy from a local tribe. He's like, listen, my grandfather went down
on your mom.
And he finds a bunch of like projector lights and stuff, and they call them embers. And then they do something where they accidentally fuck something up, and all of the fountains and stuff on Las Vegas, they accidentally flood all these underground tunnels and stuff. And so you have to dive down underneath of there and fix it. And that's where you get the Phantom Menace style diving mask, where you've got these big long like tubes hanging off your face, but you can dive indefinitely. And that really
that's cool.
Opens up exploration, because as it turns out, this is a game where about a third of the map is underwater. So you have stuff to explore underwater, swimming around.
All right, but there's
nothing to
enemies.
There's nothing to fight down there. You can't fight underwater, but
can you hide?
You can hide, yeah.
Can you get beat up underwater?
Yes.
Oh, so
as I found out.
So basically, you are just a visitor down there, and the best you could do is survive with tactics.
Ryan, what I'm about to say is the most video game thing I think I've ever said on this podcast. I was a tribal woman with a deep breathing mask diving underneath the ruins of Las Vegas, and I got eaten by a giant robot crocodile.
Like most women out there.
Because I just swam a little bit too fast, and I got eaten by a giant robot crocodile. And
how'd that make you feel?
Bad. A little bit frustrated.
No. Oh, no.
But like I shared on the podcast story, some of the screenshots I captured from that particular quest line, once you restore like the power grid to Las Vegas, and there's all these projections and stuff, this guy that is out there salvaging is like, you know what? I think we're going to stay here and turn this into like an art show / carnival where people all over present day America in the year 3200, I guess, they can come check it out. Check out the light show. Maybe they can play some games and stuff. Gamble some money. I'm like,
I thought you were going to say they're going to turn it into a mattress firm.
This. Yes. There was one line of dialogue I really liked where he's like, he's talking about the light shows and stuff. He's like, I saw the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, and a lobster. What looked like the most delicious lobster I've ever seen.
So what you're saying is he had sex with that lobster.
He jacked off underwater, trying to find all these just insane sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Can I tell you something?
What's that?
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Underwater? That's the thing that you're opposed to.
And I am not having sex with fish underwater. I'm not a motherfucking gay fish, okay?
It's a crustacean.
Motherfucking gay fish. You like fish sticks? You're a gay fish.
Good old South Park. I love it. But yeah, that was definitely one of the highlights of this game so far, was visiting that part where I was like, I think I had played some a little bit dull side quests, and I went back to a main quest story because I was like, oh, okay. I read ahead a little bit. I was like, this is the part where you get the diving mask. I was like, so I need to finish this. I get the diving mask, and I can actually go underwater and explore more.
Classic Jake over here. More.
I have to read ahead sometimes. I don't care about spoilers, but yeah, once you unlock that, this is just an absolutely stunning game. I don't think I've ever played a video game that looks quite as good as this does. Just from a design perspective, from the way that the machines look, the different tribal elements, down to the UI and stuff, they have just absolutely perfected upon something that I really, really, really enjoyed the first time. And just the different species of giant robots you're fighting. You have to fight a literal robot Loch Ness monster.
I feel like you said Joe-bot.
You have to fight Joe Rogan in this.
Oh my God. Good luck. He's on horse tranquilizers.
And he's just you shoot him with arrows a million times. He's still talking about ivermectin. He won't stop saying the N word out of context. And it's just really.
But he apologized for that.
He apologized. But still, he keeps doing it because he's like, no, I was actually trying to make a point about this. And you're like, oh, God.
It's kind of like Vinny from Jersey Shore whenever he tells his girlfriend at the time, no, I didn't give my number to one girl. I gave it to two girls. No, you just dig yourself a hole.
She wasn't a stripper. She was on bottle service.
She was a bottle girl. Yeah, duh. I love when people try to make a point on something and yet they keep fucking themselves over hard.
Make it worse.
Yeah, just keep digging that. Try to find justification, but really not. There's no justification in the public eye.
So there's a point in this game where you unlock a base, which I feel like happens so much further in the game than where it normally would. It's you play for such a long time, and I feel like this is really where the game starts. And this is the part where I had a minor panic attack where I was looking at the map. I was looking at how many things I hadn't completed, and then I scrolled over to the part of the map that was still grayed out that I hadn't explored yet. I was like, this is going to last me for a long time.
But that's okay.
It is okay. But you go to a couple different tribes. You have friends from the last game, and you recruit some friends from this current game, and they join you at the base. Mm-hmm. And my favorite thing is that, so Aloy has a little piece of technology called the Focus. She got that when she was a kid. She fell into an ancient ruin, so she can see things differently. Basically, she can scan stuff and be like, oh, this is a robot where you hit it in the butt and this thing falls off and it's dead. Stuff like this, Ryan.
Okay.
Really high-minded sci-fi sorts of things.
My face will probably tell you multiple things. As you said.
Robot butt.
Yes, robot butt. This will fall off.
And it's worth a lot of money.
You don't have an anus.
Worth a lot of money. They don't need to shit.
Their ass is worth a lot of money.
They don't need.
Man, they're like J-Lo.
Exactly. Let me tell you what, man.
I'll tell you what.
There's a good photo mode in this game. That's all I'm going to tell you for that.
All right. Cool.
My favorite thing is when you recruit people from these different tribes and they like
in a cult.
They're your friends. They join you, and then you give them this piece of technology, and they're like, "All right, so you need to go talk to computer Whoopi Goldberg. She's in that other room. She's going to fill you in about."
Is Whoopi Goldberg in this game?
She's not Whoopi Goldberg. But she looks a little bit like Whoopi Goldberg.
In what way? She's black. That's racist.
Her demeanor, the way
her demeanor.
And her face.
What do you mean? Her demeanor and her face. What Whoopi Goldberg do you know?
She looks like they took a picture of Whoopi Goldberg and were like, what if we made it a little bit different?
What is Whoopi Goldberg's demeanor? What is her demeanor?
The way that she reads lines and delivers it.
Okay, and on The View or on Sister Act or Ghost, which, by the way, is a great movie.
Ghost.
No, you can't get yourself out of this one.
Yeah.
That's a great movie. I would advise anybody to watch Ghost.
Maybe Sister Act. But also a little bit of the way that she discusses sci-fi concepts on various seasons of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Gingeration.
Yeah, the Gingeration.
A bunch of gingers walking around. She's like the only black woman in Irish.
A lot of Irish people on the Enterprise this week.
What is going on here? All these pasty ass motherfuckers.
Where she has to explain to them like all this stuff, and you can at various points you can go back and talk to them. So there are two people. There's one of your friends from your home tribe, and there's another person from another tribe. They wind up hooking up, and so
they butt fucked.
I don't know, but I do know that there are different like rooms you can open up in the base, and there's one you can open up, and they were like, the AI is like, oh yeah, the Varl and Zoe were like, they wanted their own private chamber, and Ellie's like,
brown chicken, brown cow.
Basically, and they wanted a
sex.
private. And it said private in quotation marks chamber or whatever. So you're like, all right, they're definitely and they're getting it on.
They be fucking in San Quentin.
And then you talk to him, like you go back and there's various dialogue options. He's like, hey, listen, I was reading about some ancient old people stuff, and I read that they used to give each other stuffed animals as gifts. I think that's disgusting. Why would anyone take a dead animal and present it as a present to someone else and think that that was a romantic idea? And it's little stuff like that where you're like, you know what?
That is romantic.
That's actually kind of funny where someone takes, they clearly don't quite understand. They're trying to learn something from an ancient time and they don't completely understand it. And I feel like if we were to go back 1,000 years and try to read stuff that people 1,000 years ago wrote, we would probably have stuff like that where we just don't quite get the full grasp of what they were trying to communicate there, and are taking the wrong message away from it.
And we are like, what is going on here? What has life become? This makes no sense.
But I still stand by what I said last week, that mechanically, this is a fun ass game to play. And it really and truly is. You get a couple levels in, you get to unlock certain areas called cauldrons, which are like mini dungeons. And after you beat them, you get to override certain machines, and then you get them to fight for you, which is incredibly entertaining to watch. And the combat system can be a little bit wonky if you're fighting person to person. I'm thinking one of the best combat systems I've played is Ghost of Tsushima, where you have defensive and offensive weapons. And here you just kind of roll out of the way, and then you got a spear, but you've also got your bow and arrow, and you've got your trip casters. You've got your actual slings of frozen bombs you can throw on people and machines. There's just so many millions of different ways that you can approach things in this that just, it makes it feel a little overwhelming, but there's also just this comfort that kind of washes over me where I'm like, this is the thing I'm going to be focusing on for like 3 months. And it's just kind of, once it clicks with you, it's just kind of a smooth brain sort of, you just settle in and you just let whatever happens just happen.
You're an inventory game kind of guy, right?
I love an inventory management.
Does this have any kind of inventory management?
Oh my God, there's so much inventory in this. There are, I think, conservative estimate, at least 80 different types of machines in this. And every time you have some sort of upgrade, either it be an upgrade to a weapons pouch, a weapon, an armor set, basically anything, you need a certain set of a part of a machine to, in addition to the money you have to upgrade it. So there's so many hunting missions where you have to be like, oh, here's this giant fucking robot, and you've got to shoot off this one little tiny piece that you need to upgrade a certain piece of armor, or get like certain, like more fucking berries in your pouch. So you
gotta get these berries.
Gotta get the berries, man.
Give me that beret.
Or
not that beret. Just that beret.
This extra piece from a machine so you can get this armor, or you can get a little bit of offensive power, or maybe defensive stability. Yeah, this is a game where there are a million things to pick up in this world, and unfortunately, and this makes me feel really bad, where you have to shoot like squirrels and raccoons
to survive.
Well, you need like a raccoon feather.
A raccoon feather?
Raccoon hide and an eagle feather is what I meant to say, but I just said raccoon feather.
Yeah, it was like raccoons does not have don't
feathers.
Have feathers.
To upgrade certain things. It forces you to interact with just about every piece of thing that in this world that isn't nailed to the ground, that you're going to need to collect and trade in and for anything at some point. there are so many different systems and dialogue options and branching paths and unlockable things in this. It is just a bit of an overwhelming experience. But if you haven't played an open world game in a while, I reckon that this is one of those like coats of paints that can get you into it. A lot of people, they look at something like this and you're like, well, I don't have the amount of time to devote to that. I don't, I open a map. Don't lie to yourself. I see a million things on a map and you're like, I'm never going to do that. This is one of those games where if you click with the presentation of it, you can easily fall into it. You can play this game for 15 minutes and get something done and play it for 4 hours and get a million things done. It's just, if you don't gel with the robot animal wrapping of it, maybe it's not for you, but it's definitely something that's for me. That first game I really, really enjoyed. And I do genuinely feel, like I said last week, that Guerrilla Games takes what Zero Dawn laid down and improved upon a lot of those things. And Ryan, you've watched it. I mean, it's, if nothing else, it's a really good looking game.
Yeah, I got really excited about this game because I was like, damn, some of the stuff that I don't know. You know what really blew my mind? If I'm just going to bring it back, is the fact that the demo was not in the game. Based on what you told me, you said, hey, this is not in the game whatsoever. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is what they've been advertising on this game. You're like, yeah, it's not in the game. Make it make sense.
So, yeah, that was definitely something I think came out in a couple interviews where there is a bit where they had this state of play last summer. And there's this big sequence where Aaron, aka Guy with Mutton Chops, gets captured and you have to rescue him. And he's like, hey, Aloy, listen, these people, they've overridden machines and there's some fucking shit you got to deal with. And you got to dive underwater. You got to do some really dramatic things to rescue me and beat these people. That whole mission is not in this game. That whole sequence
makes
is
no
not
sense.
Either it was a creation just for the sake of a trailer and a demo, or it was something that they deemed wasn't worthy and got cut, or it's DLC that we may see at some other point. Which seems weird that it would happen during the story, but yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they go back and they do something extra. I don't know.
If they follow in the footsteps of the first one, it's like a whole separate area that unlocks where it's kind of its own adventure. You just kind of go there and focus on it, and then that's your addendum after you finish the main quest. But yeah, it's advertising for this definitely worked. A lot of focus on like, oh, San Francisco, West Coast. If there's any area where this game falters, I think it's some of the environments are a little bland, but I think that's just because there's a lot of desert shit in this.
Desert shit.
Yeah, I don't like sand. I'm an Anakin Skywalker type where sand is coarse and irritating and it gets everywhere and I hate it. I hate sand.
I can respect that.
I'm gonna murder some children, and not just the men and women, but the children too.
Stay away from any child I have, you bastard.
It's if anything, that's maybe one of the nitpicks I have. Some of the dialogue isn't great. I mean, it's definitely better than the first one.
I was about to say,
Aloy definitely talks to herself a little bit too much, especially anytime you have stuff that she's like, I'm going to put this in my stash. I'm going to put this in my stash. Your stash, you can
like her mustache.
I'm going to put this in my mustache, which you can access anywhere. Any settlements and stuff is extra stuff that is outside of your inventory. You can just add that. It's not necessary, especially if you've been playing this for 20 hours. If there's something that exceeds your inventory, it's in your stash. You get it. You don't.
Your mustache.
Yeah, it's a real mustache ride, Ryan.
Hey, you do. As long as I'm getting somewhere and riding somewhere,
you don't need to be reminded of it. But if you haven't played this game, I don't think it's absolutely necessary to have played the first one. Just watch a YouTube video about the plot summary, and you'll be right on.
And how terrible it may be.
If you can't get a PS5, you can play this game on PS4.
Then you're poor.
From what you just have a job and a life is what I can say is that.
Jake, do you have a job?
Yes.
Do you feel like you have a life?
No.
You don't. So you have a PS5.
It's sitting right behind me.
Okay. So you at least only need one of those two.
Need one of those, but yeah.
After that, doesn't even matter.
What I was going to say is, from what I have read, the PS4 version of this is quite good. And what I mean by that is that first one, it really was probably one of the best looking games on the PS4, which blows me away to like 5 years ago to look back and be like, yeah, it was pretty fucking good. And
what if there are two different outcomes for two different systems?
If it were a third party game, I could see that. But since Guerrilla's working so close with Sony, they really seem like they have squeezed every last ounce of performance out of a regular PS4 to get this to run on it. And from all accounts, like, obviously PS5 is better. It looks better. It runs a little bit smoother. But if that's all you had to play it on, I don't think you need to wait to wait to get a PS5. Like, if you played the first one, loved it, can't get a PS5, go in on the PS4 version. It's a free upgrade if you are ever lucky enough to get your hands on a PS5. I don't think you're missing out on that much. There's a few things with the controller that feel good. The higher frame rate for me is a big deal, but if you're just looking for a fun robot hunting experience and a continuation of that story, you're not missing out on anything by playing this on a PS4. And I think that's probably one of the most like refreshing things to say about something like this. It's 9 years into a console's life cycle, is that it's okay. Like, at least for Sony first party ones, they haven't really sacrificed that much to get it to run on an older system, and to be able to play like that next game in the series and it still be a fun and enjoyable experience that you don't have to immediately demand a refund for.
Looking at you, Cyberpunk.
Yeah. It's crazy to look at the difference in performance and the way that whole thing played out and be like, yeah, this is 3 years later and it's fine. Like, yeah, it could be maybe a little bit better on like a more powerful thing, but if that's all you have, like, buy it, play it, and you're going to have a good experience with it, and you'll feel right in line with everyone else that's getting to go through this at the same time.
I feel like I always have to ask you this. Based on your experience with it now, Red Dead Redemption 2 or this game?
It's a bit of an unfair comparison because it's
which one are you choosing? It's
kind of like saying, it's comparing like what's the best video game of all time compared to this, and how does it?
So you're saying the other game's a better game?
Red Dead's a better game.
Okay.
Better writing, better world, better characterization. The combat isn't better.
Well, you're shooting guns versus like probably melee.
Yeah, you're fighting people versus fighting giant robot animals.
Yes. People are dumb. Robots are fun.
What sounds more like a video game to you? Being a pretend cowboy or being a pretend caveman lady with robot armor that gets to shoot bow and arrows and has a big spear and can shoot stuff?
The robot. Not the robot, but the cowboy man. Nobody's a cowboy anymore.
Yeah, nobody's a cowboy.
We're looking into the future, not the past. Duh.
It is a bit of an unfair comparison, but I feel like with big open world games, I'm always like, yeah, this is great. How does it compare to the best game of all time? And
I always like to know.
It's not as good.
Perfect.
But, so don't play it.
Hate it.
0 out of 10. I've hated it. I've hated everything.
Buy a copy and then burn it immediately. Find your friends.
That's what I'm saying. That's my review.
Get a pile going. Burn it. Video it. Put it to YouTube. Show the world that you mean business.
Yeah, it's... But if you exclude that, it's very fun. It's very fun to play, regardless of which console you have. Regardless of which console you have, a PlayStation 4 or 5. Will it be on the PC in a couple years? Probably. Do
they like money? Yeah.
Yes, they do. They do. But yeah, it's a great experience if you click with the first one, or maybe if you didn't ever go in on it and you've seen like the ads for this and you're like, that looks like fun, but maybe I'm a little intimidated because.
But the demo is not really there, so everything you've seen is a lie.
Everything you've seen is a lie. It's not worth playing. Don't even bother,
fuckers.
If you like white people with dreadlocks, there's a lot of this
cultural inappropriation. Love it. Yeah, perfect.
If you love
sarcasm, who did pick up on that? I don't feel like hair is a cultural inappropriation, though. I feel like anybody can do their hair however they want. Fuck it.
I feel like if you don't bathe, maybe that's what your hair looks like.
I feel like people take ideas from other people, and that's just what makes the world itself.
Every time you go to a different tribe, they call you flame hair because apparently gingers are a thing that are not common in this world. Even though I think the person that you're a clone of, the lady that invented the whole I'm going to save the world by cloning people and the robots and stuff, and all that's going to happen 1,000 years in the future. She had brown hair. They really did her dirty by making her a ginger, a clone that's a ginger. Also, Jake. I forgot to mention this. There's a second clone of you in this game.
What? An evil version?
I don't know yet. She is So I talked last week a little bit about how the introduction of this game.
Do you and her get it on in Scissor Me Timbers? I know. I'm pretty stoked on that answer too.
No. Yet that I can tell. But if I'm judging by the tone of this so far, I'm going to say no. You run into a clone of Aloy called Beta.
Well, okay, I see where that's going. Yeah,
she's the second clone, I guess. And the whole opening tutorial section of this game, you're infiltrating a facility that's owned by a company called Far Zenith. And in the first game, you're like, oh, this company, in addition to the Zero Dawn stuff, there's also a company that they sent a ship out away from Earth to form a colony somewhere else, but it blew up. And they reiterate that point, be like, oh yeah, it blew up. These people definitely aren't around anymore. You're definitely not going to hear them coming back into the main story in a couple missions. They're definitely not going to show up again. Listen,
or will they?
They're definitely not going to be. They come back. They come back. It's the interesting part of this was Aloy finds out that these are not descendants of people. They're the same people. They found some kind of technology that just makes them not die, I guess. So it's not descendants of them. It's the same fucking people that left Earth 1,000 years ago that are still back, and they've got bad attitudes and they're racist and bad. And they're like, all right, well, we're going to come. It turns out we're the people that sent the signal. It's like, guy, listen, destroy all life on Earth. We need to fucking just wipe it clean so we can make the Earth the way that we want it again.
Yeah, gotta love human beings.
Yeah, man. Turns out they're fucking shitty no matter which era of history they're from.
We're the pawn scum.
Whether you know a lot of stuff or nothing, they're bad, it seems like. And it's that constant friction. So we're to the point where she is a clone that they just happen to have on board the ship, and she's like, you're talking to her, and
I'm a ginger.
She's like, yeah, you're a ginger. She's like, oh fuck, like, and there's one point where she's like, oh well, we need to recapture this, and she's like, you haven't done that yet. Oh my god, we're fucked. She has like a literal panic attack. She's like, they're gonna find me. They're gonna find me. And I actually laughed out loud a little bit, where I was like, all right, like this part. Where she's like, oh no, you guys are too fucking dumb. You're never gonna figure this out in time. Like this is bad. It's bad news.
Would you say it's a stretch?
She just escalates it out of nowhere. Like, and you can pick these dialogue options off of, like, they don't have to go in order. So it would be really funny if that was the first option you picked in the conversation. She has a panic attack, and then you're like,
we just met.
Tell me about when you learned ABCs on the spaceship. And she's just all of a sudden it's like, well, let me tell you about
the herpes that I contracted through deep space. It's like an escalation of something you never asked for.
Fuck, this game is insane. Like, insane that it's that like popular in Sony's marketing. That is like, this is our big game that we're producing right now. Read up on the lore a little bit, and I feel like a lot of people can be like, oh, fucking like what Gaia and subordinate functions, and like it's all tied into
sexual intercourses. So this game doesn't have
zygote. No, nobody has sex in this. It's only implied.
Well, I feel like people should have sex in this world.
It's not cyberpunk.
Well, how are you gonna have more people than like robots?
Well, people be getting it on at some point.
You think so?
They figured it out.
I feel like I hope they would have.
There's no robot stork flying into babies from.
You never know.
I haven't seen that yet, but I cannot rule out that that's a possibility.
Make clones, make orgies. You know, that's the only way you will win the fight.
Yeah, Ryan, does this ever seem like something you would sit down with?
I would sit down with this. Yeah, I'd fucks with this, as the kids would say.
Yeah, it's a good one. I don't think I can recommend it enough. I mean, it is
not the greatest game ever, right?
It's not the greatest written game ever, but if you exclude all that and you're like from a gameplay perspective, really fun. If you don't
skip the dialogue,
if you don't
play the game,
need to understand everything about what's going on, it's really fun to play.
Well, it sounds like you could just watch a YouTube video of the first game to figure that out. So I bet you could do that for the second game.
It's 5 years old at this point. I've seen people on Reddit like, I just played through all of Horizon Zero Dawn and the DLC. I can't wait to play this one. I'm like, that is absolutely the wrong way to approach this. Same way when we were looking at Miles Morales, being like going back to the first Spider-Man and then playing that. Don't do that.
First Spider-Man was best.
It is, but also it's too similar. You're gonna get burnt out on the same sort of thing over and over again. Like you have to be
really enamored by it.
Really, just
because you need a break there.
Really, really want to know what's going on. Just look up a video, and if you want to know the plot summary, to jump in. It's fine. Like
it's the same city.
Yeah, but yeah, that's Horizon Forbidden West. I'll probably be talking about it on Game of the Year in 11 months or whenever that happens. But it's a good one. I recommend it. I got to talk about it for a while. I got to gush over it. I promise I will never, ever speak about it again.
You are a liar.
Ever.
You just contradicted yourself. How dare you?
Where I said I'm going to talk about it 11 months and
then you said
never
no.
Speak about it again.
Yeah.
Who's to say? I'm a real loose cannon, Ryan.
Yeah, you're just loose.
Video games are fun.
You're just loose.
That's all I've got. That's all we've got. Next week, we'll be talking about Batman or Space Force. Probably the Batman. Probably.
More than likely.
More than likely. Guys, if you've made it this far, we thank you for listening. Please do share it with a friend. We appreciate that, and that will help us continue to grow. And eventually, we're going to stop doing this if you don't share it with a friend. Like, this is a warning.
Spread this like herpes.
Yeah. 150.
For every person you've had sex with.
4 episodes.
Suggest it to that many people.
Exactly.
Suggest it to people we've had sex with.
Don't do it if you're in a committed relationship.
Do it if you're in a committed relationship. Who cares?
Don't do that. Don't betray your partner's trust.
That's not betraying anybody. That's just suggesting good things.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, hey,
it's like, hey, brush your teeth.
Brush your teeth.
Listen to this podcast.
Be eating more protein. Listen to Almost Accurate Podcast and Podcast of Movies.
It may help you find your true love.
Yeah, it may help you point and direct something you didn't thinking about watching, or being like, I don't want to watch that, and listen to us talking about it. Be like, I want to watch that now.
Yeah.
Or something you wanted to watch and be like, I don't want to watch that now after listening to these guys talk about it.
I'd rather listen to them talk about it.
Yeah. I feel like my experience has been enriched more by listening to it rather than watching it.
We'll do all the work for you. Come on back.
We do that.
Come on back.
We play games you don't want to play. We play games you want to play. We watch stuff you wanted to watch.
We've had sex with people you don't want to have sex with.
We've watched some really fucking horrible things and talked about it for a long, long time. So to spare you the misery. That's what we're all about. That's what we're all about on this podcast. We're all about sneezing, blessing each other, because it really bothers me when someone doesn't say bless you after someone sneezes.
You never said bless you. I turned off my microphone, so.
Oh, well, thank you for clicking it back on. That's
You're
really some
welcome.
forethought on your part.
I try.
Well, bless you one more time.
There we go.
Get one more free one.
Nope. I don't need it. I'm an independent, strong black woman.
Guys, thank you for listening. As we say at the end of it, this is in every episode of Almost Accurate.
99 bitches.
Until next time, folks.
Peace.